Tachyon, the Fringe, was a space sim and Bruce Campbell vehicle released in the year 2000. Yes, really, that Bruce Campbell, of Spider-Man tutorial fame.
Greetings. Welcome to the tutorial. Okay, so the next thing I want you to do is jump off the building. I mean it, just jump.
I'm going to die!
I can't help you. Unplug the machine and walk away.
Tachyon was the creation of Nova Logic, a studio with a history going all the way back to 1985, but they didn't really make a name for themselves until the early 90s with their vehicle simulation games like the Comanche series. And then they really made it to the big time with Delta Force, a series of first-person shooters utilizing the voxel-based Voxel Space engine that had powered their vehicle sims. Emboldened by their success, they decided to try some new things, such as going from voxel space to outer space. Not with voxels though, unfortunately. That would have been way cooler. Tachyon is all about this guy, Jake Logan, who is the most early to mid-2000s character design I've seen in my life. I can't even make a joke about him taking his shirt off to show you his tribal tattoo because it's already right there. Mr. Logan here is a spaceborne mercenary pilot working for the Advanced Ganymede Technologies Corporation in the 2500s, and by the time the game starts, he's already made a name for himself, having just come back from rescuing a passing shuttle from deadly space debris while on the job. Oh, and did I mention he's voiced by Bruce Campbell?
Well, that's my life. One job after another. Always looking out for the big money, the big break that'll set me up for life.
I did? Well, it bears repeating, because I'm barely exaggerating when I say that whether you're going to enjoy this game or not hinges almost entirely on whether you find this guy and his antics charming or not. Old Jakey boy's life is going well, and that's where we come in, to screw it all up. As we jump in, we get to see how Logan's daily life goes. Clients put up opportunities for us on a job board, which we can accept or refuse at our leisure, though the story won't advance until we've completed certain ones, of course. Only one job at a time also, no doubling up. Take a job and you'll find the shape of space to be very familiar if you've been following along with this channel. You can pull up a map of inhabited space which consists of a network of sectors connected in a node-like fashion. Within these sectors, you will often find civilian ships milling about, or occasionally a massive space station that looks like you could maybe dock with it at some point. Travel between sectors is facilitated by tachyon gates found at fixed points in each sector that warp you to a corresponding gate in a nearby sector. So we're a mercenary who can pick and choose contracts, and we've got an open world to play around in. Sounds like we've got ourselves another Wing Commander Privateer like on our hands, right? Well, no, actually, not at all. Although you will never convince me that this is what Nova Logic originally had planned, Tachyon is a decidedly more linear affair. There's not a lot of information out there about the development of this game, but I did manage to find this IGN interview from December 99, 4 months before the game's release, in which designer/producer/artist Michael Mazza says this: Tachyon won't penalize you if you decide to just take off and cruise around the galaxy without any specific mission. I suppose that's technically true of the final product. They can't penalize you for something you can't do in the first place. The first time I played this game, I spent an unreasonable amount of time searching for a way to launch without taking a job, convinced that it was there if I could only find the right button to press, but no. The only way to go into space is through the job board. In that same interview, Mazza mentions random encounters as you travel through space, another thing not present in the final game. Remember when I said you could only do one job at a time? Well, the job you pick determines the state of the world outside, and it's the same every time for any given job. While you technically can deviate from your mission path and explore the open world, you'll quickly realize there's basically nothing to do and nobody to interact with outside of the pre-planned mission route. You see that station? Well, you can go there, but you can't dock with it, at least not in the way you're thinking. Given the obvious source of inspiration, it doesn't take too much effort to imagine what could have been. An open-world space adventure, just like Mom used to make. But if we put aside the disappointment over what could have been, being set in the husk of an open world at least doesn't hold the linear ride we actually have back at all. While they were out borrowing things from Wing Commander, they made sure to grab the waypoint and autopilot systems, so if you're ever confused about where to go, you could just look for the mission waypoint, or better yet, hit the autopilot key to zip over there in record time. The setup is actually so familiar that my muscle memory ended up getting me in trouble a few times, with my propensity for hitting the autopilot as soon as it's available inadvertently skipping dialogue that I wanted to hear. So if you play this game, remember to always wait a few seconds to see if somebody starts talking before jamming on that A key. On the other hand, if you ever find yourself repeatedly failing a mission, you'll be glad they did things this way, because you can skip past all that fluff and get back to whatever killed you very quickly if need be. Though, of course, you're pretty unlikely to be killed working these early missions AGT has for you, which do a pretty good job at easing you into the action, with an emphasis on ease. That is, until you get a mission to escort a shuttle carrying medical supplies to a space station stricken with a mysterious and deadly new disease. And this happens.
Landing complete. The package has been delivered. Good work, Logan.
Argoso, there's a discrepancy between the cargo scan and your manifest. Clearance to unload is withheld until further notice. Is that acknowledged, Argoso? Argoso!
Yeah, this is Logan to Dillinger Starbase. We got a problem. There's been some kind of explosion. Logan to Star Patrol. Boy, am I glad to see you guys. I'm not exactly sure what just happened.
AGT vessel, this is Star Patrol. AGT vessel, surrender your ship controls immediately. You are under arrest.
The whole base has been destroyed.
This is not good. The trial didn't last more than a few days. Oh, I was told that my corporation fought for me, but come on. I never had a chance. Now on a prison transport, I await final judgment.
Jake Logan, you have been found guilty of crimes against humanity. For your involvement in the conspiracy to destroy the Halley Research Station, you are sentenced to banishment from the Sol system to the fringe of colonized space. May you suffer among your own kind there. This tribunal is closed.
Exile wasn't the worst punishment they could hand out, but believe me, it wasn't getting off easy. The Fringe is a lawless region run by corrupt corporations, fanatical colonials, pirates, and, well, madmen. If I'm lucky, I might be able to scrape together a new life out there. If not, well, I won't be the first guy swallowed up by the Fringe.
Weird punishment, but sure, I'll take it. We lose all of our assets as part of this, including our snazzy corporate-sponsored ship, which it turns out was the reason why all those early missions were so easy, leaving us to make a new life for itself in the Rift starting from scratch. Well, not completely from scratch. We do get to keep our reputation for being history's greatest monster, for whatever that's worth.
Hold on. I know that name. You're the piece of slag who killed all them sick people back in Seoul.
That was a bum rap. I got framed big time.
Listen, Logan, I don't deal with convicts. This contract is cancelled. Just fly away.
Hey, now wait a minute. I told you I got framed.
Go get hulled, Slanger.
The Rift, as it turns out, is not that bad a place to be because it's full of action, excitement, and most importantly, a large cast of rogues, misfits, and other undesirables. You've got corporate psychos, shameless paparazzi.
Convicted murderer Jacob Logan, formerly of Advanced Ganymede Technologies, began his permanent exile from the Seoul region last week. In the coming months, Tachyon News Service intends to follow up on the life of this fallen pilot.
crazed cultists, mad scientists, a trio of Dune-esque warring barons, including this guy, who appears to be sending all of his transmissions from a jacuzzi.
Why, of all the contemptuous belligerents, that wench, that harpy, oh, slaves! Kill this miscreant who brings me insults!
And also a pirate named Redshift Rory.
I'm sure you've heard of me. I know I've heard about the infamous Jake Logan. I liked your work back in Neptune.
The missions you'll be flying for and against these characters are of a pretty standard scripted variety. You're doing all the same objectives you'd be doing in an X-Wing game, only one at a time, with nothing really standing out as particularly frustrating or fantastic. The most memorable missions to me ended up being the ones that utilize the game's ancillary features in clever ways, such as the one where you get called in as a negotiator, which can go very differently depending on which of the game's hireable wingmates you bring with you. Or this one, where you're presented with 3 would-be spies and have to figure out which is the real one.
Hey, Logan, right? Oh, it's damn good to see you. These others just followed me out here.
Please, there has been a grave error. A transmission from Olympus base was intercepted. These imposters know the code.
Logan, the imposter speaking before me is correct, but only in that there are imposters. I am the real operative.
Can't you see what's going on in front of you?
All right, that's enough of that. Just hold on. Put a lid on it, will you?
Which you won't be able to do unless you've been paying close attention to your pre-mission briefings. And hey, you got me, but I appreciate the effort regardless. I kinda wish there was more stuff like this, which is both a testament to how clever it is, but also to how pedestrian the combat is. The game plays like a fusion between Wing Commander and X-Wing, but less interesting than that sounds. Your ship flies like a plane, slow-moving lasers intercept a target, you know the drill. You've got a target lead indicator and an afterburner button like in Wing Commander, but active power management like in X-Wing. And it all works fine, I suppose. I think the thing that really lets it down is the enemy AI. I feel like I complain about docile enemies in these games a lot, but I've never seen it quite this bad before. Like, I promise you, these guys are trying to kill me. I'm not just murdering a group of pacifists here. We are participating in a Bloodsport arena match after all.
This match is out of control!
They can become dangerous if there are enough of them surrounding you, or if hazards like stationary turrets are introduced, but it's just not satisfying to beat them. Which also dovetails with the hit effects, which are kind of You do get visible shield flashes and sparks when connecting with bare hull, which serve the important gameplay function of confirming that you hit your target, but the sounds and animations for these things are poor, failing to achieve the equally important function of making that confirmation satisfying. This boomstick just doesn't cut it. I don't feel like I'm shopping S-Mart, you know? Probably the most remarkable feature, or rather the most remarked upon other than Bruce Campbell in all the reviews I read and listened to, is the slide button. Although most of them didn't seem to realize that this is yet another thing borrowed from Wing Commander. Specifically Wing Commander 3, where you could hold a button to temporarily activate Newtonian physics, enabling you to turn and shoot in any direction you want as you continue to slide in whatever direction you were going when you first started holding the button. Its use was somewhat metered in Wing 3, where only 2 of the 5 playable ships were even capable of doing it, and it was subject to a speed limit. But in Tachyon, they've unleashed it, allowing you to use it on any ship and at any speed. So you could, for example, hit the afterburners, then start sliding and let off the gas to keep moving indefinitely at burn speed, a technique that is quite useful for conserving power. It's good for that and the occasional tactical maneuver, especially against fixed or slow-moving targets like turrets on a station or capital ship, and is decently fun to perform, but nothing transformative. Presentationally speaking, Tachyon looks significantly worse than its contemporaries, with distractingly blurry textures for its ships and skybox elements. One trend that fans of older games like X-Wing and Wing Commander were lamenting at the time was the removal of detailed cockpits in favor of full-screen views or simplified cockpits with HUD elements overlaid on top of them, and Tachyon is no different. However, in the case of its aforementioned contemporaries, such as Starlancer and Free Space 2, I think those fans would be hard-pressed to say these aren't at least polished, attractive expressions of that idea. Tachyon's HUDs, on the other hand, are just an eyesore. I suppose this is also the place to mention that there are no out-of-ship cutscenes of any kind, not even an intro or ending scene. At most, there are in-engine scenes of ships moving around. I hope you like this render of Jake, because that's all you'll ever get. All this combines to give the game a kind of ramshackle feel. You could taste the lack of budget. How about the story then? The Fringe isn't solely populated by unaffiliated weirdos. Most of the drama there is actually between two opposing factions, the Bora Mining Guild and the Galactic Spanning Corporation, or GALSPAN for short. The Bora were a political party 200 years ago who, when it set in that they were never going to be the majority, decided to leave the solar system for the far reaches of space. The place they settled in ended up being called the Fringe. GALSPAN are an up-and-coming go-getter of a megacorporation looking to disrupt the Oberon status quo and make a name for themselves by being the first to exploit the Fringe's resources. Specifically, the region just so happens to be rich in RIP stars, used to power the Tachyon engines and gates used for interstellar travel, which would be quite valuable to whoever controls it. The Bora have been there for hundreds of years, but technically they didn't ask the United Sol government for permission, and the 7-Planet Accord states that the USG governs all of known space. GALSPAN uses this as an excuse to muscle in, petitioning the USG for exclusive rights to the territory and, popping open the door and letting themselves in the meantime. Of course, the Bora aren't going to cede their territory just because a piece of paper belonging to some absentee government says they should, and so armed conflict ensues. As for how all that relates to Jake, well, you don't have to spend very much time in the Fringe before you're forced to pick a side, and once you've done so, you're committed. No playing both sides so you always come out on top here. This actually splits the game down the middle. While many of the side missions for unaffiliated employers are available on both paths, all of the main story missions from this point are exclusive to each side, which is always a neat gimmick. In addition to the missions, your ship will end up looking pretty different as well. You see, those credits you earn for doing jobs aren't just for show. You use them to buy ships, weapons, and upgrades. But which ships and weapons are available to buy depends on which faction you join, with each one having different strengths, weaknesses, and focuses. And it's not just numerical differences. For example, GALSPAN has an array of different kinds of homing weaponry available, while the Bora focuses exclusively on dumbfire ordnance. Spanners get an immobilizing tractor beam, while Borats get an instant hit railgun, and so on. The one thing that kinda dampens all this is that it kinda seems like the developers wanted this choice between factions to be a bit more morally ambiguous than it ended up being in practice. Some of the names and mannerisms of the Bora sorta feel like they're meant to give off an American Revolution vibe, but, well, with the Americans there were arguments to be made. But the Bora went off and colonized a truly uninhabited region of space with zero help from the USG, and now some corporation wants to take it from them. There's simply no justifying what GALSPAN is doing here. They're just plain evil. And not the fun kind of evil either. If you really, truly didn't learn your lesson the first time and decide to go corporate again, you might hope for either a cackling camp fest or a cyberpunk conspiracy thriller, but instead you kinda get just another day at the office. Corporate Jake seems content to just blindly accept whatever his superiors tell him and sort of sleepwalk through atrocity after atrocity, not really taking any interest in or gaining any understanding of the implications of what he's gotten himself involved with.
Evacuating station now. All transports launch. Independence Control signing off for the last time. Launch commencing.
Logan, the more terrorists were escaping on those shuttles.
Well, that's one terrorist shuttle down.
Jake, for the love of God, read between the lines, man.
Alright everybody, all terrorist shuttles eliminated.
After witnessing the things I have on present-day planet Earth, I can't really call this an unrealistic depiction of a corporate stooge, but it's not exactly a narratively interesting one either. The only thing Spanner Jake actually seems to care about is attempting to flirt with his manager.
Say, when I do find this pirate, why don't we review the data over dinner?
Dinner? As long as it is just for business, Mr. Logan.
Bora Jake does the same thing, to be fair, but he actually gets some reciprocation. Probably because he actually displays some admirable qualities, like taking some real interest in the plight of the Bora and an active role in advancing their cause. Having Jake actually care about what's going on also makes it much easier for us to care about it as well, though it's nothing amazing either way. No, the thing that actually does save this game from mediocrity is Bruce Campbell. No, really. More precisely, the fact that every mission is filled with endearing banter between him and all the colorful characters I mentioned earlier. That's the heart and soul of this game. It's about the journey, not the destination. If you don't enjoy this stuff, you're not going to enjoy this game. But I do, and so I did. But that does make me question something. If we take another look at that render of Jake here, we see the foundation for my little joke in the video title. But this guy doesn't just look like Nathan Drake, he is the prototypical Drakester. The charming and witty, but perpetually in over his head everyman hero. But here's the thing, I don't like Nathan Drake. To avoid going too far off topic, especially about something so subjective, let's just leave it at I cannot sanction his buffoonery. But if that's the case, then why does this work for me?
Director Atkins? Oh, yeah, good to finally meet you, sir. Nice strategy attacking the Bora base right now, you know, keep them running, right? Yeah.
Perhaps it's the game around it. Could my lack of appreciation for mediocre third-person shooting and automated climbing be leading to a bitch-eating crackers effect? Maybe, but as we've discussed, Tachyon's mechanics aren't exactly top tier either, but it's these character interactions that elevate it. I suppose I could just posit that Bruce Campbell just does it better than Nolan North, but I don't think it's that simple. No, see, it's everybody else. Unlike Drake, Jake Logan is not a lone goofball in a world of mostly straight men. While there are a number of serious characters in the Fringe, there are just as many wackos out there for him to bounce off of, with Jake himself taking his own life and livelihood seriously enough to sit somewhere in the middle of all this. In other words, he fits right into the world that produced Redship Rory.
Sheesh, did his mother really name him Redship?
As was the style at the time, the game had online multiplayer through Novologic's Nova World service, which allows for games with over 100 players at a time. I say allows, not allowed, because amazingly, the service is still up as of the making of this video, but only if you install a fan-made patch. Unless I'm misunderstanding things, I think these are the official servers I'm connecting to right now, which have somehow managed to survive Novologic's death in Albin name in 2009, its buyout by THQ Nordic in 2016, and Embracer Group's meltdown in 2023. My guess is whoever was supposed to pull the plug left ages ago, and it's sitting in a dark room that nobody's been in for years. That or they moved it to AWS and forgot to cancel their subscription. There's the standard deathmatch options that you'd expect, but the interesting mode is something called Base Wars, in which players hunt for crystals that can be used to upgrade their team's home base, enabling access to better equipment, with the ultimate goal of destroying the enemy team's base. It sounds pretty cool, but you'd probably be pretty hard-pressed to find enough players to get a real game going nowadays. If you actually haven't played this game and aren't just taking a stroll down memory lane, this should probably be enough to convince you either way. I should emphasize that the game part is by no means horrible, it's just not good enough to be a draw on its own. Luckily, they got a little something extra in the form of this guy. Hopefully you should be able to determine whether that works for you or not from the dialogue samples I've shown you up to this point. Tachyon released in early 2000 to average reviews and by what all appearances seemed to have been abysmal sales. The only hard data I could find was this CNET article citing PC Data saying that it had sold 20,000 copies to date 2 months after launch. This comes with a bunch of caveats. It only covers about 50 to 75% of North American sales, but it's the best we've got, and it doesn't look good. And the fact that we haven't heard a peep about Tachyon from Novalogic since corroborates this. When people talk about the supposed death of space sims, it happened because of examples like this, which were becoming increasingly common by the turn of the millennium, leading to publishers deciding that games like this weren't worth the investment. I wish I could tell you why this unfortunate trend took hold, but all I can say for now is that it did, and that's a real shame. Well, that's a wrap for Tachyon the Fringe. Next up we've got G-Police. Or you could join me on Saturdays at 5 p.m. Pacific to ride along as I muddle my way through the lesser-known space sims that end up in these smaller videos, with a chat that is paradoxically both chill and lively, and commentary that has been described as soothing by some. Did I ever mention that before? I should probably be featuring it more prominently in every video I make. Oh well. As of me putting the finishing touches on this video, I've been streaming Independence War, and not gonna lie, it's been a bit of a perilous journey so far, but I'm determined to see it through. If you'd like to support the creation of more videos like this, you can find me at patreon.com/SpaceCadetRewind, like these fine folks you can see on the screen right now. If you support me at the Captain tier, you can vote on which games I cover, and those of the Major tier get a shout out, like this. Jomenthin, Josh Cardwell, Justin Talbot, Julius BMT Cotere, Jan Vollmer, Red One, Erica Simmons, A Hanging Chad, Puke Skywalker, formerly 410,757,864,530 Gay Cops, Alarmed Response, and Pops Freshenmeyer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you when I see you.